Florida State recruiting has been on absolute fire recently, especially that defensive back position, which back in May or June looked like it was probably one of the weaker spots overall. Some of you may remember people were already beginning to question new DB's coach, Pat Surtain, throwing his recruiting ability into question, which was obviously just silly. Pat Surtain coached several years at American Heritage High School here in Florida. He was a 10-year NFL vet, and his son now plays as probably the top DB in the NFL. The development aspect is there, and so are the relationships, and now FSU fans are seeing that hire come to fruition in the name of a pair of five-star elite talents at DB. Florida State held off a late push from Deion Sanders in Colorado to ultimately earn a commitment from five-star DB Charles Lester a couple weeks ago on July 28th. But that wasn't even the biggest pickup of the cycle, as that immediately was followed by going into Kirby Smart's backyard and getting a commitment from five-star plus safety KJ Bolden. This is a true pound-your-chest moment from Mike Norvell and the staff, and it's probably the biggest get of his career so far, as KJ is the highest-rated recruit to FSU in several years, maybe even since Dalvin Cook. KJ was coveted by every staff in the country, and more importantly, was one of those can't-miss type of kids for Kirby Smart and UGA. KJ goes to high school in Beaufort, Georgia, so it's absolutely massive that you're able to go in there and pull him away from the in-state school. Everybody had him predicted to UGA for a while, even up until the day of his commitment, and it seemed like UGA was far ahead of everybody else in that recruitment. We all know how well UGA has been recruiting over the last several years. They're obviously very well equipped in the NIL game, and when you pair that with the on-field product they've shown, it's easy to see why UGA recruiting is a well-oiled machine right now, sitting with the #1 recruiting class in the 2024 recruiting cycle. But then here comes Mike Norvell and the staff, who just kind of seem to have the dog's number right now when it comes to recruiting. I know Kirby Smart has got to be absolutely livid at this point. If you remember back in April, Florida State also flipped five-star Landon Thomas, who's the #1 tight end in the country. Georgia was also heavily involved with Charles Lester, who they also lost out on. So that's 3 massive five-star targets in this cycle alone that FSU and Georgia were both in on, and FSU ended up winning out with. Now, obviously, Georgia will be fine, and they still probably end up with the #1 and #2 class in the nation, but it's still huge for FSU to battle the Blue Bloods, the top dogs in college football right now, and win that consistently. And it's what you have to do if you want to regain your national branding and get back to the top of college football. Stacking momentum is huge in recruiting, and it's really just part of the formula. Good players want to play with other good players. So that's why the run of, I believe it was 13 commits from July 4th to August 5th is so huge, especially considering I believe 9 of those guys were blue chips. KJ Bolden, after he committed, even said Noles fans needed to show love to Charles Lester in particular because he had been recruiting KJ for over a month and played a big role in why he decided to come to Tallahassee. Again, that's multiple five-star DBs on the same squad. Now they both get to work on recruiting others to follow, and it seems like that's already working out as well. Now, I hate to pour salt on the wound. Actually, no, I don't. Florida State has also received multiple predictions to flip five-star linebacker in the 2025 class, Jaden Perlotti from, you guessed it, UGA. Perlotti is KJ's teammate at Beaufort High School and said that he would pretty much follow KJ wherever he decided to go. So we'll keep an eye out for that one over the next few days as well. FSU is currently tied for the most five-star players in their class and is currently holding a top 5 class nationally. It's been years, really since the Jimbo days, of FSU recruiting this good, especially at that DB position. FSU is the only team that has 2 top 20 DBs in their class, and they're also trending for top 100 DB Jamari Howard. So for Pat Surtain's first DB class, that's truly incredible. And it also shows why the hire was made in the first place. Like I said, FSU hasn't recruited this well at DB in years. And it's always been frustrating considering Florida State's prestige at that position, with Deion Sanders, Jalen Ramsey, Derwin James, and more. Now, Pat was hired back in January to replace Marcus Woodson, and I had a few issues with Marcus Woodson, as did most fans. For starters, that DB position on the field over the last few years just hasn't been up to FSU's standards. I fully expect Pat Surtain to have a lot of that fixed this season. Who knows, we maybe even get a few DBs who know how to turn their heads when making a play on the ball. But the other big point of the issue was recruiting. I feel like Woodson could just not recruit that position to save his life. Some of you may recall last summer Desmond Ricks, who was the #2 player in the 2024 class. He had originally named FSU his leader, but then come out and told Hayes Fawcett that we just kind of stopped reaching out to him. He said it was like we gave up. That's not a good look at all, considering KJ Bolden was also on that post agreeing with him. Luckily, we were able to get that one turned around in the end, but still not a good sign. It's all not to mention the utter meltdown caused by a 5-star DB in the name of Travis Hunter, who flipped on signing day, leaving FSU in the headlines for all the wrong reasons. So there was a clear issue there that existed under Coach Woodson. I don't necessarily blame the whole Travis Hunter on him solely, That was on Norvell too, and has some other factors at play. A 5-7 season for starters, poor NIL at the time, uncertainty of the coaching staff, etc. But whatever the case, we've fixed all that now, and recruiting, especially at the DB position, is alive and well thanks to Coach Sertan. That's not all either. While FSU already holds a very good class, I do expect them to add a few more players at some other positions. We're also in on a number of flips, such as Artavius Jones from Miami, Jason Zanamella from USC, and it's definitely a long shot, but I'm not ready to give up hope just yet on flipping Jeremiah Smith from Ohio State. Yep, I'm ready to be hurt again on that one. But if not Smith, I think the staff can and will circle back to another 5-star receiver, JoJo Trader, who's currently committed to Miami. A lot of these will likely happen in season, if at all, as kids will be using their official visits for game environments. I know that Miami game at Doak is already shaping up to be a pretty massive recruiting weekend. So all that being said, you just gotta love how well FSU is recruiting right now, and I don't know that there's a team that's currently as hot as we are on the trail. And let's not forget that just 2 seasons ago, the Noles went 5-7 after a 3-6 season. So that kind of turnaround is very impressive. I think a lot of it has to do with relationships. Yes, NIL is a big portion of it too nowadays, but I think generally speaking, it's only effective if you can combine NIL with good relationships on your staff. I think FSU has fixed both, and that's why you're seeing this kind of surge in recruiting. Mike Norvell was the first to offer KJ Bolden, and then visiting, spending a lot of time with Coach Pat Surtain is kind of what helped him change his mind to pick FSU. Mike Norvell offered Luke Kromenhoek very early before he was even ranked as a player, and he's now a fringe 5-star and ranked as the number 3 quarterback in the country. It speaks volume to not only the staff's evaluation, but their ability to create and maintain these kind of relationships with these kids over the course of several years. So all around, a lot of exciting stuff, a great week, a great month for FSU recruiting, to come from being ranked in the 20s to now top 5 class, and I don't think we're done yet. Great time to be an FSU fan right now, unlike some of those other in-state programs. The season is quickly approaching, the team is in preseason camp now, so we'll probably have some more in-season type content coming for you guys. I'll probably be doing a schedule breakdown and prediction soon, but in the meantime, like, subscribe, and let's talk Noles.